imagination is such a part of what we do as creatives, but especially when you're on a stage, a gray or a black or a white stage, and there's just a grid of cameras all around you and a few people and nothing else, or maybe some pipes and apple boxes, you really do have to harness your imagination and not hold yourself back from that. So I'd say believe in yourself and believe in the world that you want to create, because it's so, so important to saturate what we do to the highest quality.
So firstly, I want to say thank you all for being here. But before I pass it to you, I want to pass it to the audience. Can I get a raise of hand of like, do we have any video gamers in here? Gamers, you love games, you watch games, like, you know, raise them high. I can't, it's hard. Oh, okay.
So I thought there'd be like two people.
Yeah, no. So and I got to pass it up to you guys. Do you guys play games?
We shouldn't start with that question.
Okay. Fair enough. So my first question for all of you is, can you just talk about how you guys got into the world of video game acting, whether it was like this was your first role, or is just it came along the way? Can you guys start? Victoria, you can go first.
I completely stumbled into it. I was auditioning for TV and film and had a goal to be an action heroine, and then a video game audition for performance capture came across my emails from my manager at the time, and I guess the rest is history. That was for Assassin's Creed. So,
absolutely. And Kimberly, what about you?
Well, I've been doing all kinds of voiceover for many years, mostly animation, and it's kind of similar. So, yeah, I wanted to do it. I auditioned for pretty much everything that I get. So, yeah, I don't really play. To answer your question, I wish I tried.
You provide enough voices to where you're
yeah, and we're busy,
doing enough.
Right? We're busy. We're trying to make
You're trying to make more people.
Yeah,
that's completely understandable.
Yeah. So I've been doing it for I don't know. A long time since like video games kind of started.
It's crazy too. Like as I was preparing for this, I was like, she voiced that one. I was like, it's so illustrious how much you've done. So it's pretty incredible.
All fangirling over Kimberly.
Kimberly, what?
Oh my god.
But Elliot, what about you, man?
Good to see you, by the way. It was similar to Victoria. I was auditioning for TV and film, and then an audition came through for, I don't even know if I knew it was a video game, but just something different, like some special project. And I looked at it, I'm like, I'm never going to get this. But it seemed like the kind of thing I would want to do. So I just put down, an audition like I would normally, and then had a couple callbacks, and then got the job. I still didn't know what the job was. When I got the job, I went in, they're like, we're going to scan your face. I was like, what am I doing here? And that's been my only experience in video games so far, and that's with Call of Duty.
And we're going to dive a little bit into that later, but Alex, what about you?
It's a bit similar, actually. I had recently moved to New York, and I thought, I won't have to be in my car in traffic. I'm just going to say yes to everything. So commercials, whatever. Like, I'm here. I'm going to do it all. And I got an audition, and I showed up. They said that the sides would be provided there, which I thought was a little strange. Typically, one prepares beforehand. And I showed up, had to sign an NDA, which I thought, oh, for sure, then it's an Apple commercial. It's got to be. Cool. And then they had me look at the sides, go into a room, and they said, you can do whatever you want in here. There was not somebody behind a table, just somebody sitting there reading with me and a camera. And they said, and we want a Southern accent. And I was like, well, from where though? I mean, I've been studying, so like where? And I got general, so I was like, all right, you know what? This is fun. And I just went for it. And I had a call back, still had no idea what it was. Said I got the job, still had no idea what it was. Showed up at Rockstar, and my jaw hit the floor. Because I did play video games. It hadn't been for many moons, but I showed up and everything inside me just like freaked out. And I had my first day, and then I didn't hear anything for a couple months and was like, well, I guess I really didn't do a good job there, not knowing the process. And yeah, the rest is history. And that was for Red Dead Redemption 2.
And Maggie, last but not least, what about you?
I'm going to sound like a broken record. I stumbled into it by a complete accident. I had just finished my graduate program. I got a master's in classical acting, so lots of Shakespeare from Lambda. So I was living in London, and then I moved to LA January 2019, and didn't have an agent, was unrepresented, self-submitting myself to anything that I could find. And I happened to find this audition that was for a video game. And similarly, I was like, why not? I'm here. I just moved to LA. I'll take anything that I can get. Everything's under NDA, so you don't have any real information about what you're auditioning for. So I had no clue. And went in, submitted, got invited to audition, auditioned, then got invited to have a callback, did the callback, and then months later got the call that I booked this job that I'd sort of forgotten that I even auditioned for in the first place, showed up for the table read, and that's when I was like, hold on. This feels like a really big deal. I wish I knew what was going on. Turns out it was Resident Evil Village, and I played Lady Dimitrescu, who ended up being the iconic villain of that game. So that's how I broke into the industry. And that was, I think, job number 3 that I booked when I moved to LA, which is ridiculous.
Amazing. And you kind of led me into what one of my next questions was going to be, is just when it comes to self-submitting and doing a tape like that, do you have any advice for the audience? For this can be open to any of you guys, for when it comes to self-submitting for a role, especially when whether it's like voice capture or they're going to be using your face. Is there any advice you would give going in or submitting moving forward to people? Now, Victoria, and I know you do a little bit of teaching, or you had a class.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I have a class in a company called Book VO PCAP, and we actually coach people. I have friends that are AAA leads, and we actually coach people to do just that. So there's so much information that I could give. My biggest tip would be, you just got to be a great actor. I mean, it doesn't really matter what the medium is. And I always say, to anybody that comes to me and say, Victoria, I've got my first performance capture audition, because that's mostly what I coach. I've done, of course, video games that are voice as well. But I say, it's a bit like music. Every different medium has a different rhythm and a pace, and animation is a different kind of musicality to video game voiceover, and performance capture is different to TV or TV comedy, a half hour. You would know what you're going in for, whether it's a half hour sitcom or if it's a feature film. So performance capture is just another string and to your bow. But ultimately, if you're a great actor and you're really working on your craft, you're going to be a force that's undeniable. So just believe in yourself and get really good. That's my biggest tip. And, if you want to know how to just adjust for that medium, then that's kind of what I coach.
It's adding like another string to your bow. That's a bar. That was a pretty good. Anybody else?
A real bow. No,
I need to take your class.
come on down.
Because I find, you're saying you mostly do motion capture, and I never do that. I'm strictly voiceover. Because first of all, you have to memorize lines. I'm just saying. And it's not that easy when you're used to reading it off the script. I mean, I have a theater background, so I used to be able to do that, but I try to do a motion capture thing, and I'm like blocking and like finding your that was a lot. So I need
it's a lot. It's a practice, and we do have a lot of people that are very established, like yourself, that are just nervous to try that, and then it's just practice. It's practice.
Yeah, it's hard.
I do think it's a hybrid. I got sort of thrown into the fire, and luckily the rest of my cast was very kind. And when I heard T-pose and had no idea what I was supposed to be doing, and
Like
T-pose,
I'm
like no, that's almost like action, and you're like, I'm sorry, what? And you literally stand and you do a T-pose so that the cameras can register.
Come on, Alex,
your
show us
form.
what a T-pose is.
Oh, yes.
There we go.
Oh, Valley, good. T-pose.
You have to do that at the beginning and the end of every sequence.
Everything.
Yes, every time. And it,
What about A pose?
And Z-pose. Have you guys had that one
that's for
too?
later. That's for the next
the
one.
advanced class.
Guys,
Jinx.
but it's an interesting hybrid, and we get called, or when they talk about Red Dead a lot, they always say voice actors, and I do a lot of animation, audiobooks, a lot of voiceover as well. But what we did doing mocap with full facial recognition is not being a voice actor. It's doing more theater in the round than it is another kind of acting. So when I'm crying in a scene, I'm really crying. And when I'm snotting, I'm snotting. When I'm spitting, I'm literally spitting. And then I'm like, okay, no, sorry, can I just... I'll clean it up later. But it's more that, and unlike film or theater, you're imagining the world. The room is more similar to this, and so you have to use every part of your imagination to ask the directors, okay, what's the weather like? What's the ground like? What are we doing? How much of my environment can I incorporate into my performance? And I think that's really unique to mocap and certain video games. And
that's what I would always say as well when people would ask, what's it like? Is it similar to TV or film? And I would always say it's theater in the round and in your face. Yeah. Because really, on a typical set with a camera, when you're on camera, you know what part of you is showing how much, you know how far away it is, if it's a wide, if it's close up. In PCAP, it's everything at the same time. It can be anything. They can move around you, they can come in on you, and now with where the technology's at, like you said, if a bead of sweat, I don't know if any of us can do that on command, but I can. No, I can't. But it is that if something, a detail as small as that can be captured and then used, if your eyes well up with tears and you don't even cry, it can capture that and it will include it in the final product. Were you surprised by that? Good. Yes, that's the right sound. Everyone should make that sound. It's really it's really incredible, and I think that I would say also belief and imagination. Imagination is such a part of what we do as creatives, but especially when you're on a stage, a gray or a black or a white stage, and there's just a grid of cameras all around you and a few people and nothing else, or maybe some pipes and apple boxes. You really do have to harness your imagination and not hold yourself back from that. So I'd say believe in yourself and believe in the world that you want to create, because it's so, so important to saturate what we do to the highest quality.
Kind of just leaning into that, because I was going to piggyback it to you, Maggie, just because you talked previously in one of your other interviews about how you have a theater background as well. You lean more into the theatrics. So can you just talk about what you guys, that mind place you have to go into, like it, because you guys say it's similar. It is acting, but can you talk about the mind place you have to go into for these video game type characters that you're basically bringing to life? As no like real material, it's yourself.
Yeah, I can. No, I think you're absolutely right. And what everyone has said so far is exactly it. You don't have any of these outer trappings to rely on in order to tell the story for you. You don't have hair, makeup, costumes, set pieces. You only have your imagination and your physicality to create the world around you, to endow this space as real. So it really does get into that sense of play. I think that's why it's so fun, because it gets back to the root of, I think, why everyone wanted to be an actor in the first place, which is just being a kid and playing pretend and, oh no, the sandstorm is coming. What are we going to do? And then you get to do that. That's our job, is to do that, is to play around and use our imagination and play make-believe for a living. So it's an honor and it's a privilege. And it's very akin to theater because you are carrying a lot with you. You have to hold the story up with the strength of your mind. Anyway, so that's that. That's that.
Absolutely, and this is for any of you guys. But can you talk about what the collaborative process is like, working with a director, working with the producer, anybody that is coaching you? Like, no, we need it this take. We need it that way. So what's that process like in terms of video games?
I mean, I get mine out the way, so I'm not talking the whole night. For me, the collaborative nature of my experience of doing the game is what makes it so unique from TV and film. Especially TV, you don't have time to rehearse things. You're not going over and discussing different lines all the time. Every day that I would go in for COD, for Modern Warfare, we sit down and first of all, we hang out and we set the energy and the tone, welcome everyone in. Then we go onto the stage. We talk about what we're doing that day. We look at a previs if we have one, a kind of a mock-up, a very, very low render mock-up of what the scene should look like basically and what we're trying to achieve. And then we talk about how we want to fill it. And there's so much collaboration throughout, even as we shoot the scene, because we're doing this, a few times, and we'll pick up different pieces of the scene. And each time that we do, if we find something would work better, then we'll go back and we'll do it again. If someone thinks, you know what, I have a character thought in this scene in the campaign, this is going to happen. And if we want the player to feel really excited and energized to achieve this level or whatever accomplishment that might be, wouldn't it make sense if we put something in here and then in real time you get to be a part of that creative process as well, in my experience, which is, really incredible and gives you a great insight into how hard these people work and how much there is to think about across the board of making any video game, like whether it's AAA or anything like, not below that, but anything else.
Yeah.
There's so much thought and heart that goes into every step, and it's really nice to be brought into that on a game stage.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to tackle that one as well?
Sure. I think games are really unique in that sense because actors are the last piece of the puzzle that come in that fit into what they're working on. And so I think it's a misconception oftentimes that I have very small picture of the wider game as a whole. So I rely on the dev team and the voice directors and whoever's working with me that day on set to be the bigger picture on my behalf. They have all the information. I only have a very small slice of information that's relevant to me. Sometimes you only have your lines. You don't have the other characters' lines. So you don't know what you're saying things in reference to. So the collaboration, that communication is so important, to have that element of trust between the people that you're working with in front of the camera, behind the camera, all across the board. That's what makes it alive and unique. And also then that's when you find those moments of discovery, when you are having that exchange of ideas. So the work is really never precious to me because I could come in with one idea and then I learn that in fact it's the exact opposite set of circumstances, and you have to be able to pivot really quickly and make adjustments on the fly. So I think a lot of the prep work for video games is about putting in those 10,000 hours in advance so that when you show up on set day one, you are flexible and versatile and able to handle whatever they throw at you on the day. Sometimes you show up, you don't even know what you're working on, and they tell you right then and there. So you have to be able to do that and come up with ideas and generate. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And Victoria, were you about to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that a little bit on the back of what Maggie was saying is there's no room for ego in video games at all. And there really are no stars, because they could have been building this game for 5 years and then you walk in the door. And a lot of people rely on you. And especially if you're a lead in a game, you set the precedent for the rest of the ensemble. And some people will come in for 1 day, half a day. Some people will be with you for 6 months. But the rest of the development team have been on it maybe 5 years, all working together. So I'd just say to think about that. It's not like when a TV show starts up and everybody's on day one. That's not the case with video games. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I wanted to add.
That's a really good point, and that's really well said, because I definitely feel it's the most collaborative aspect of what I do as a voice actor, because I do feel like that. I know like the writers and like usually when you have a session, since I'm only talking about voiceover, and during pandemic I was able to record tons of games from my home studio, but only because on the other end was the writer and the voice director and someone who's explaining the game that they've put all this time and energy into building and creating. And you're right, we're like the last people to show up, and there is no room for ego. I love being a part of the collaboration and learning about it, and and just getting to play. Like you said, this is what we get paid to do, and it's actually pretty amazing. So yeah, it's super collaborative. I love that.
Love to hear that. And
yeah, I wanted to say that unlike television and film, where you get a script and you get to read it and then you know the trajectory of your character and you get to really plan, at least in my experience, because the NDAs were as they were, and from my understanding, they were writing and shifting things as the process went on. I worked on Red Dead for 5.5 years. on and off, was not daily. It sometimes would be, 3 weeks full on, and then I wouldn't hear anything for, a month and a half or 3 months or whatever it was. And there were things that, we would reshoot sometimes, but there's so much trust required and presence involved, because without, as everyone's been saying, you have to know that they know what they're doing and talking about. And so you just show up and give it everything. And I didn't even know that I was a real character for the first 2 years in any significant way. And then all of a sudden my stories started to come about, and then you have your relationships with the directors, and we had the most incredible directors and the writers. I mean, what a dream. I feel like in any form, writing is you hope it's great, because I don't know how you make it good if it's not. And so
Seriously.
we've been, I think all very fortunate to be a part of things that were on the superlative side of the industry.
And befriend the writers. They are your best friends. And I want to throw over to the strike. It's so nice to even become even closer with writers during this time. And I think there's not just one writer, with a TV show, you have multiple writers on a series, but with video games, there's even more. There's a big team of writers on that. And they are the people that you want to know the best. I've made some fantastic friends in video games with writers, and some incredible female writers that are coming up now as well, which I just want to give a big shout out to, because it wasn't always that way.
Absolutely, and Victoria, I'm going to come back to you just because we had a couple firsts with some of your roles, as you being the first female playable character in the Assassin's Creed franchise. So can you just talk a little bit about that? And did you have any pressure? Did you feel any pressure once you found out that you were joining this franchise? Like anything to that matter?
Yeah. So I'm grateful for ignorance, because I didn't know what Assassin's Creed was. I don't know where I was, living under some rock or something. I'm a big reader, so I was kind of had my head in books. But I did play Tomb Raider, and I do love Lara Croft, and I love that. But yeah, it felt, I think also what my peers have said is it's quite a long process. So you kind of get used to having it coming up. And I also had the luxury of having 3 weeks rehearsal with the actor that played my twin brother, Paul Amos. So we were in Toronto. I relocated to Toronto, and we were able to rehearse with the writer, Jeffrey Yahalem, and we worked with the team, the director, Ramiro, and we were figuring out how life would be. We also played twins, so we had to figure out our body, our mannerisms, kind of our heritage, how we would talk, our specific accents, where we were from. So we had a long time, and for me, that's my favorite part, is the researching who I am, and building this character's life. So that was really luxurious. And then we have the whole process, and then the game doesn't come out forever. Mm-hmm. So for me, it didn't really hit me until I was in San Diego Comic-Con with 1,000 people in front of me at a panel, and I went, oh, this is pretty big. And what's quite funny as well is that it's kind of an invisible audience until you get on social media, and then you get the validation, but you don't really see. I was on a soap opera for 2 years, and people would come up to me, and say hi in England. But in video games, you don't really get that, because you don't really see, unless you are the likeness of that character, I guess. I haven't done that. You don't. It's kind of an amazing. I love gamers, but an amazing invisible billions of people audience.
Absolutely, and coming to you next, Elliot, first black playable and main star for a Call of Duty game. Like just that alone, hype, like dope as crap. But like the pressure, just the pressure, especially coming. Like I love video games too. Your boy's a gamer, but some of those fans can be toxic, bro. Like they can be toxic. So can you just talk about how it felt? Like you're getting cast in that year, and you have your likeness in there. So like, what was that like?
Is he the perfect person to do this?
I don't know.
So good.
Hype me up.
Yes,
tell that to the boss. Tell that to the boss. Thank you though.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I wasn't aware of that at the time. Like I said, when I was cast and when I got the job, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just like, oh, what's this scanning machine? That's so fun. That's what they call it. But I, at the time when we were filming, I think I started filming for Modern Warfare 1 in 2018-ish. And then obviously we had a lockdown. We had a lot of stuff going on all over the world, but especially here in LA. And I remember having a lot of conversations with friends of mine, and I made a podcast with these kinds of conversations and things. But something that became very clear to me was the impact that games have always had, but especially today, and especially on a title like the one I was involved in. There's an audience of millions, billions collectively who are playing this game in one form or another every single day. There is no TV show that people are watching every single day and then talking about with their friends. There's no film that everyone's getting on Share Watch or whatever it's called and watching every single day. So when I realized, wow, there are people all over the world of different cultures, speak different languages, different races, ethnicities, different sensibilities, different lives, have one common ground platform. That's when it hit me, the significance of, a position like that to be, especially in that world, because that world generally of games, as you pointed out, can be quite toxic in the fan base. Something that's brilliant about gaming, I think, is it gives people a sense of play and freedom and relief. You choose your own adventure in the story. It's always unique for you, but also some of the expressions can be quite unique as well. And I think that's when I realized, wow, there are people who look like me or similar to me or don't look like what every hero has looked like on every poster of every game in this franchise up to this point, who want to feel like they can be a hero as well, and want to feel like they can be talked about like they're a hero as well. And when I realized that, that's when it all changed for me and how purposeful it was. And it's not about me, that very easily could have been another actor who's great, and there are many great actors who, are always being considered for these roles. But it felt like an opportunity to fill that space responsibly once I realized that, and just share. I don't know what effect it had or not, but I wrote an open letter to Activision, to the CEO of Activision at the time, just to say, this role that you've decided to create, the fact that you've decided to take this legacy character that millions of people love and make him not another white man, is so wonderful. And not just because I have a job now, but because this will impact the lives of people in a way that shouldn't be ignored all over the world. And that's really cool. So yes, that's true. Also, I just love doing it. It's so much fun. So I try and balance the two.
Absolutely. And so I want to go back because one of you guys mentioned that I think it was you, Kimberly, you mentioned that once COVID hit, you were able to set up a booth, record from home. So for all of you guys, do you guys still have a at-home setup to record and stuff like that? Is there any props or any like specific tools that you guys would recommend to anybody out there looking to, start recording, but they can't go to like a booth or something, but they just got their own home?
Well, I mean, no, it's over, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, but still, people still.
I'm just kidding. No, I already had my studio because I get to do promo. I do a lot of promo work too, and that was always that like immediate industry. So, like you would get a call to record something like that same day that's going to air that night, so you had to be like available, and so I kind of already had that set up. But I just had to switch out my microphone because I was doing, it was a different mic. Promo was kind of more of like a shotgun mic, and so I had to do
So pro, I just use the same one.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a really good one.
You have different mics. I use the same. I'm not at your level. I just have the same microphone for my promo.
I mean, there's just two mics, really.
You're like iPhone.
I know
voice
there's people
record.
that have like me, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. They come in all different sizes. I mean, people are using closets, and that's a really good acoustics. You basically just need a microphone and some sort of interface. I don't know. I'm not that technical.
You don't have to be really techie.
Yeah,
because
you really don't.
I am not. and I just know how to turn on my little Claret
Yeah.
pre 2K.
I don't have to do that
and
much.
Plug it into my Mac, and then
Yeah.
I
Gain up, gain
it
down.
works.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
Because
But yeah.
that was scary for me when I first, after doing performance capture, and then, I got taken on by a voiceover agent, never done any voiceovers. And then, you have to quickly learn that. And in the pandemic, you had to learn it really fast to have a session and conduct your own sessions, which I think still, that's the same really for me. I do probably maybe 80% of my sessions from home now.
Same.
Any of you guys have any setup or any recording from home? Have you guys experienced that or done a lot of that or still doing that?
I do. It's in a closet, and I just put up some moving blankets to dampen the sound, and I have a slight stand. Basically, it's a music stand, and then a stand that goes around. That's like what musicians would use for sound. Directional microphone, which really helps. For me, it's been mostly audiobooks, which I was doing during the pandemic, which is its own lane of voiceover. I like to call it the marathon of all voiceovers. Yeah, it's you need to love to read. And luckily I do.
And read perfectly.
Oh yes, word perfect. That is very real. And your brain, it turns out, loves to play tricks on you. Whew. So yeah, it's basic though. I mean, I upgraded to a nice microphone, a little mini Neumann. But other than that, you can kind of make it sound good on your phone. Sorry. I know I shouldn't be saying that, but at least for an audition, if that's what you're worried about, don't not audition because you think you need all the right stuff. I promise you don't.
That's a really good point. The stakes are never as high as we think they are. I tricked myself into thinking the stakes were super high every time I went in to record. The edit had to be perfect. Take out all the noise. No, nobody cares. And then when I took out all that stuff, then coincidentally, I ended up taking out a lot of the flavor of character as well. So I just kind of let it all go. It's really accessible, and I had a huge resistance to the tech side of it, as I think a lot of us did. But it's actually quite accessible, and it does not have to be a big deal. Make it work for you. Also, D. Bradley Baker's website, So You Want to Be a Voiceover Actor, has a lot of great resources that get into the tech stuff because he's great at that and I'm not. So go to that website and he'll really outline, like, this is the microphone, this is the thing, ba-ba-dee-ba. So, yeah.
I didn't anticipate being a sound engineer.
Yeah. I try to go in for sessions whenever, if they offer it, I'm like,
yeah,
yes, take me
100%.
in, because I'm not a sound engineer. I want to come in, I want to roll up and be an actor. That's the only brain piece that I want to use.
And this is why we have to vote on the interactive contract.
Bing, bing, bing.
It is. There it
Because
is.
we're not sound engineers.
Exactly. By Monday.
And this kind of leads me to just the business side of things. How do you guys approach or talk with your representation, with your agent, about getting these roles or auditioning and going out and getting these auditions? Like how does that work out? Whether it's you see something online, you send it, or like your agent works with you. Like how do you guys go about that? I know it's different for each of y'all, so I'll leave it open.
Can I actually ask a question? When you were self-submitting,
Oh God, to me?
time.
Oh no.
when you were self-submitting to TV and just everything in general.
Yes.
Did you find it different self-submitting for games in terms of how many opportunities there were to submit? Was there a lot of
No.
TV? Please
There
continue.
were less. Please continue. Okay. No, there were less. I think I found it on LA Casting or something like that, or Casting Frontier. It wasn't even Actors Access. It was one of those other ones. And I don't think I saw a lot of video games. It also wasn't classified as performance capture. It was just video games. So I had no idea that the PCAP, Mocap part was a piece of the equation. What was your question?
I don't remember. I was transfixed.
Oh,
Such wonderful. Everyone has such great voices here that I'm like,
yeah.
It's so interesting.
But just to any of you guys, like as far as finding the role, getting the gig, like how did you work with someone directly, or how do you go about that? Just any advice that the actors out there can have.
I think as well, I mean, for me, the advice I always just give if people coach with me and things like that is just to have a goal. You know, most people, you ask people what's their goal, they don't have one. And that's like saying I'm gonna go somewhere today, and just keep turning right. It's like, why are you getting up? Like, what's the point? I mean, seriously, like, there's probably 50% of this room hasn't got a goal written down. And that is what you need. And then the universe will go, okay, this is what you're focused on. I mean, it's funny, but it's not, because this is the sad part. I see so many talented people. They just have no direction. And how you are directing your agents. They're working for you, which we forget a lot. And if you have no direction, if you have no goal, if you don't know what you want or what you want to work in, and there's like, roll the dice and go to the casino. Like, you have to have that. And then whatever you believe in, higher power, universe, will just come into that vacuum and give you opportunities. If it's, I want to be a series lead on a network show, or I want to be a AAA lead with performance capture, that's what you do, and you find the right people. And I see amazing people in here that have taken classes with me that are great. I see super talented people, and they know that. I always say that, you know, you can be the most talented person. Also, if nobody knows who you are, you don't have a goal, you're not talking to people about that goal, then you can't move forward. So that's my thing. I mean, and then the agents will come, and then you have the conversations with the agents about the goal. That was my goal with my manager. I want to be the next action heroine. Now, I wasn't very specific, so I got a video game, which is fine, which is great. You know, I didn't become in, you know, Mission Impossible, but I am Evie Fry in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and that's kind of, you know, that was great. That is amazing, and I'm very grateful for that. So even if it's something vague, like put it down on paper, share it with your team, you know, and take the classes that are going to help you towards that, you know. Maybe you want to do motion capture. Maybe you don't know the difference between what's motion capture, what's performance capture. Maybe you love video games, but you don't want to do any performance capture. You just want to do the voiceover. Okay, so what games are mostly voiceover? Who are those? What are those companies? You know, if we're going to be in TV, we're going to watch the shows that we want to be in to work out if we want to be in them. I've watched so many shows and been like, well, I don't really want to be in this, actually. Or I've watched that director, go and watch that director. Somebody said to me, I'm a singer as well. Listen to this composer, listen to this. Oh, actually, I don't really like that music, you know, so I don't really want to do that. So it's figuring out what you want, you know, and carving that path for yourself, because there's nobody like you. All of us are very different. And there will never be another one of you. So you have to show us what you want, show your team what you want, and then we get to see that. If you don't have that goal, the universe and the entertainment industry is going to miss out on you, which is a shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah, I feel like giving us some coaching right now. Kimberly, did you want to say something?
I can't top that. That's really, I mean, I really believe that. I mean, I've always sort of known that, and I didn't really can define it that well. But yeah, since I was a kid, I knew I wanted to have a microphone and make voices and be an announcer, and I would impersonate. And I did the things that I needed to do to achieve that, which was putting myself in that position, taking classes, studying, doing all of the things.
You have to become obsessed.
Yeah. And then
if you've ever been obsessed with a person, just put that into your career. Like,
exactly. It's so true.
Just do that.
And
Not
I remember when the day that I just told myself or told someone that I'm a voice actor before I had even booked a job, you know, where that was my mindset. So I totally am like 100%.
I feel it's like, manifesting, like putting something out there.
Yeah.
I swear, beginning of the year, I said, I'm going to moderate a few panels, did San Diego Comic-Con, did then BAFTA, and then I said, I'm here with SAG-AFTRA people. So this is, and some of the most incredible voices in video game history. So it's a pretty cool honor. Like, got to have that positive energy.
You did it.
Got to manifest it, but, be a good person. But it's not about me. It's not about me. It's about these. It's about all of us. So can you just tying everything together? But can you guys all what was it like once you got that first role? Once you got that, this is I want not a big break, but this is it. Like, how do you guys feel like you capitalize on that like opportunity or like that momentum to like keep it going or like try to look for that next thing or like try to capitalize on it?
Good question. Well, it's interesting just like sensing the energy, because I won't claim to know anyone's answer, but for me, I don't really know, because it's not really been my goal. It feels different to TV and film, where there's a clear trajectory of, okay, this is how this could enhance opportunities for me in the future. Let me do this publicity moment and pay so much money, have fun, and do that. But with games, it's, I don't know, it feels much more connected to the love of it and the play of it, as you were saying before, Maggie. I just go in, I have been going in to enjoy the creative process and have fun, and then hope I can come back next time, which so far has worked. Yeah, but I would be intrigued to know if anyone has any thoughts on like how you capitalize on this, because I mean, I'd love to continue to do this more. I grew up playing games too. I love games, and there's so much talent in games that bring them to life, especially to have that ability to go between something larger than life that might suit the stage or in theater, but then also something so nuanced and sensitive that would be for like the most beautiful film. It's incredible to be a part of, but I can't claim to know how to carve out that path.
My answer to this would be the law of service. Be of service to people. Be like, I created my podcast about performance capture, and I interview all the people, directors, AAA leads, all of that. I asked Vicon, who make the cameras, do you want to sponsor them? You got billions of dollars. Like, help me get the education out for this medium, because people don't know how to do it, and I want to help actors. And I genuinely went in it for that. Like, I want to help other people know how to do this, because people don't know how to do this. They don't know what it is. The public don't know what this is. And we're not getting any recognition for this as a craft, because nobody knows what it is. So I think whatever it is you want to do, like, how can you help others? And that sounds kind of, I don't know, cliche, or, how help other people. But I do think that it comes back tenfold. And I think that if there's something that you can do, I advise one of my students, he does a creature TikTok, or something like that, voices and things like that. It just offers that for people to do that. I do a podcast. It doesn't have to be anything even that big, but it's just something, somebody, can you read with me? Can you do this? Can you do that? Like, just kind of put yourself out there, because really it's reputation. It's not about what can I get all the time. It's about what can I give selflessly and see, what happens, because it will come back tenfold. And it might not come back from the same person, of course, but I found that, like, I just set up this podcast because I wanted to do it. And then I've interviewed people and they've given me jobs, I've never asked them for that, but they've, we've talked about our experience. I'm genuinely being interested in them. And I'm interested in everybody, like, sounds silly, but everybody here, like, everybody's unique, everybody's talented, everybody's in the union, everybody's wanting to do something different and will play a completely different character in a video game. So that's why just be of service, I think.
Yeah, like, there's enough room for everybody at the table. You don't have to, we can all build our own buildings. Were you guys, Alex, were you about to say something?
I was just gonna say, I think it's echoing everyone else. It's a really misunderstood genre, because it's more physical than most other forms of acting. When you're on set, I mean, we had a couple of times some really incredible stunt people, but all of the females on our set are doing everything, climbing up things, jumping off horses in heels. And
heels. In heels.
Wait, even
like
on the stage?
boot
Like on
heels.
stage?
Boot-
On the stage.
Boot heels.
Oh,
Yeah.
God damn.
That's the only reason I really knew I was in a Western, is because I looked at everyone's feet. And we're like, all right.
No
then.
other costume. It's just the shoes.
I mean, yeah, the shoes, because, you're in your scuba diver superhero cat suit, and, you get close very quickly. You know so much about everyone who's there on set and acting. And so, I would say that, right? Yeah. Lots of little nuances you learn that are funny later on. Anyways, I could go into it. But to say absolutely be of service, and it is a misunderstood genre, so it's confusing, because, you'd think, as you were saying, if you're the lead in a Marvel film, like, you're probably going to get to be the lead or right up there in more films. And that's not the case here. I mean, I haven't been offered another video game, and I don't think that the recognition is there, and that's totally okay because you get to perform, you know, at our soul's guts, because I would not recommend being in any version of this industry unless you have to do it, unless it's like a virus in your blood to do this, because it's brutal. And if you don't love the actual act of doing it, nobody owes you anything to give it to you. And so there's a bizarre mentality of hurry up and wait, and then also to give and hope that, you know, it comes back in some form so that you can feel good about the work that you're doing, not so that you can be famous or recognized. I think there are other avenues that get people jobs, and that's absolutely fine, but I don't think that's at all what we're talking about here. You know, this is hard, long hours that are amazing, and you get to meet incredible people. And I've made lifelong friends, and I've gotten the great privilege of going to some Comic-Cons and interacting with the fans and learning how this world has helped people is one of the greatest gifts of my entire career.
Red Dead Redemption 3. I'm telling you, we need to get Sadie as a main protagonist. Like, if we want to, like, they want to, you know, let's make it happen, Rockstar. I'm looking at you, Rockstar.
The fans will be the ones that make that happen. So if you're a fan, write them up, let them know. But yeah, all that stuff, that's all superfluous. It's all the outer trappings, but you don't have control over that. The outcome is outside of your control. The only thing you have control over is your job, which is to be the best actor that you can possibly be and lay it all there on the floor. And then if you do that, that's when that moment of luck will strike, where that you were so prepared and then you met the right opportunity, and that's what allowed it to take off. And that's what you can capitalize on, I guess. But I didn't plan for any of that. It kind of happened to me, where the role came and just exploded me into the scene and essentially created a career for me overnight. But that was never my intention going in, as same as everyone else has said. I think too, so often we kind of separate. I think there's a preciousness around acting and craft, and we forget that it's also business. And part of that is in our schooling. In drama schools, nobody takes a business class. They teach you what to do once you've got the job. They don't teach you how to get the job. So don't forget that it's your business. You are the CEO of your business. Same what Victoria was saying about your agents. You're in charge. You run the ship. So having your goals, making a business plan, all of these, take a business 101 class, because I've been learning the hard way and it's really hard. And nothing makes you feel stupider than not understanding how your business operates. So don't be stupid like me and learn.
It was perfect segue, because it leads me to my next question for all of you guys. If there was one thing that you learned that you wish you would have known from the beginning, what would that one lesson or one thing you learned be to pass on to other people?
Don't be a snob around video game auditions. I was, honestly. I turned it down the first time my manager sent it to me. I said, I've just been on TV show, I don't do this, like, what's this? You know, I did, and I'm ashamed that I was like that at the beginning. But she was great. She encouraged me, and we did the tape, and then we did another tape, and then we flew to Quebec, and then we came back, and then, you know, it was a long process. There was a lot of stuff happening in my own personal life at the time. And you know, it really has carved out a road and a path for me that I never even thought about. And it's been such a blessing. So I do think sometimes opportunities come to us we don't know are good for us. So whatever it is, you know, whether it's a commercial or whether it's a voiceover or video game or TV or film or whatever it is, just keep an open mind, I think.
Really, what about you?
That's kind of what I was going to say in a sense, because, you know, I've been doing this a really long time, and I've seen the business change as a Black actor, roles, you know, very, very few roles to now. It's kind of like very in to have, like, you know, some representation, which is amazing, obviously, because it's a lot more work for me. So and it's great, you know, to have opportunities to be leads, and it's really, really wonderful. But I think what you're saying is really, really true. Just being like flexible, being open, like it's kind of a numbers game. I think just everything, and I think of you can learn something from everything. I kind of had a little bit of a not an ego check, but when I started doing loop grouping, which is super hard and there's a real skill set there. Very technical, but there's no stars in that room. You're not. You go in, you're part of a team. But I learned so much from watching other actors and being a part of that, that vibe, that whole group and everything. So, just being open, being flexible, being fun to work with, being easy to be around. That's how you get rehired. For jobs and having fun. I never think of it as work. I always think of it as literally I'm going to play today and what fun I can do. And it just being having that attitude, I think, will take you a long way.
Love that. Elliot, what about you, man?
That was so nice. I would say dare to be your own example if you don't see an example of what you would like to be before you. I feel like that's a thing that I have navigated for most of my career, is knowing what I want to do, knowing where I want to be, knowing how I'd like to be seen, and then listening to everyone talk about their role models and this person and that person, me thinking, I don't know another mixed race, black, queer actor who's a hero that people like. I'm like, that's kind of hard. And yet somehow I've been fortunate enough to find opportunities that have helped me fulfill that for myself and be that example. And it's the most amazing thing to then hear from other people. Oh, it's so cool that you're doing this, and we love, people in the queer community. We love playing Call of Duty, and it's so cool that there's not a character but a person who's talking about that and doing it. So I would say that dare to be your own example, and don't worry about trying to find a way that people have done it. There is no one way. There is no way. There's no guarantees ever. And kind of like Maggie was saying, you can only ever be ready. You can't decide when it will happen. Just believe in yourself. Don't put limits on yourself, and know that you always have the potential to be the example. Even if you do see something similar before you, be your own, because it will be the best version of it if it belongs to you.
Absolutely. Alex, what about you?
I mean, here.
Yes.
I started working when I was very, very young in TV and film and voiceover. And I think I was maybe taught that, 2 + 2 = 4. And in this industry, it does not at all. And in order to be able to play, you also need to make sure that you're okay, in the sense that because it's an artistic pursuit, it's hard. It's really hard, and it doesn't always financially support you. And so I remember coming out of school, and I had left a TV show to go study other things, because even though I loved acting, I'd been doing it for a long time, and I needed to know exactly who I was outside of it. So I would recommend, knowing what other hobbies you have, because while your job is, if you're doing it and it's something you love, it doesn't feel like a job. It's still, you have to make sure that you have a job so you can play. And I'll never forget getting a bar job, and somebody came up one night and they were like, wait a second, why are you working here? I just saw you on TV. And I was like, and what can I get you? Because I wanted to take my classes, and I wanted to do Alexander technique, and I wanted to work with Patsy Rodenberg, and I wanted to work with Larry Moss, and then I wanted to figure out what the hell animal work was. Like, I was so hungry and curious, and all of that costs money. And I mean, now less so than ever, but a guest star doesn't really fund all of that. So I got a bar job, and I was able to work simultaneously, and luckily my bosses understood, and they were incredible, and would have my job waiting for me when I came back from filming for a month. And so
That's great, because I got fired. My job was not waiting for me when I came back from filming for a month.
Wow. Yeah, I just lied.
There is no one
I
way.
made something up.
I know. The moral of the story. But that's just it. Just, do what you need to do so you can do what you love, and don't, it's unfortunate, but when you get desperate about it, it's like a stench. Like nobody wants to work with that energy. And I found, right? I mean, I don't know how else to explain it but that. But when I was working in a bar and I was dealing with life stuff and family was sick and I would prepare my auditions, it was like finals. Like I would hyper focus, I would get it, know my lines, go in there and I'd leave and I'd be like, cool, bye. Because at the end of the day, I had other more important things. And that's when I couldn't stop booking. You know, I did my work, I showed up and I needed to be at the hospital. So whatever. And there's something that's
just
attractive
acting.
about that.
There's nothing like that experience to be like, yeah, it's just acting. There are way more important things in life. So if I don't book this job, who gives a flying fudge?
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
that's irrelevant in
And
the grand
acting
scheme.
helps me live, but at the same time, it wasn't about getting the job. You know, it was about doing the thing that I love and doing it my best and leaving it at the table. And thank you, and you're welcome. You know, both.
Goodness, to follow everything now seems insurmountable. But yeah, you in particular are touching on a lot of the things that I'm currently focusing on in my life, because I think I was prior to this in that kind of obsessive focus zone of I'm trying to generate a business. I'm trying to build a business and make it as an actor, which is so freaking hard to do. And so 100% of my energy and attention went into that. Then I got very lucky and landed a role that built that for me. And then afterwards I was like, oh, now what? I focused so intensely on this one thing. And yes, it's what we love. These are the things that we started off as hobbies for us because we love to do them. But then when it becomes your work, you just intrinsically have a different relationship to it. And then I was noticing the areas of my life where all of a sudden I felt these deficiencies and these empty pockets that I hadn't developed or haven't bothered to invest my time and my energy into because everything was focused on career. And then I kind of came up for air and was like, wait. And I had a teacher tell me this one time too as well, that acting is about life. So if you're not out there living your life, then you have nothing to pull into any of your work. So you have to build a life for yourself that's outside of just what we do. We are not solely defined by our careers and our jobs. At the end of the day, this is our job. We can not allow it to define us completely. We are so much more than what we do. So now I'm in the stage of life where I'm like, crap, all my hobbies became my job. So what do I do for fun? What are the things that are fun for me? And so I'm going through that period. So I say invest in all of that. And then similar to what Elliot was saying, the things about me, specifically my height, so often was a thing that ruled me out of a job. It was a thing that kept me from booking. My co-stars were not going to be nearly as tall as me. Therefore, I can't play that role. I'm going to be the matron in the back yet again. But for the first time, what's so liberating about video games and voiceover is that it's not dependent on how you look. And in fact, with Lady D, my height was one of the assets that helped me book the job. So the things that made me unique and my unique background of I started with vocal training, and that's the cornerstone. It remains the cornerstone of what I do. And I bring that with me into every job. That's the unique thing that I, as Maggie, have to offer. When you book me for a role, I'm coming with this. So the more you invest in what makes you unique, I think the more you will book and find the jobs that are right for you.
Like, I'm like, seriously though,
Brought
like,
it home.
across the board. I'm not a voice actor or anything like that, but I feel motivated. I'm learning so much. I'm like,
Let's do this.
Like, get me in there. But my last question, just to wrap up everything, is there what would you say or tell an actor to put to shape up their resume or reel? Like, any advice on what they should be putting in their reel or their resume to, help increase their chances of booking the potential video game role?
Okay, I'm going to definitely say whoever wants to do performance capture, do not go and get a made performance capture reel. Please do not do that. Stop right now. Don't pay thousands of dollars to do that. Stop. Get a great acting scene where the casting directors can see you, whether it's a monologue or a scene that they can see great acting. Nobody needs to see you do walk cycles. I don't care. Like, honestly, people bring these to me every day. Do not do that. If you've got the credits, then you can use that and make contact with the game developers and ask to use that for your reel. But do not make walk cycles, jumps, kicks. No one cares, unless you want to do stunts. But if you want to be a AAA lead in a game, we need to see you can act. they need to see that you can act. So that's my biggest advice about reels for performance capture video games. Only make one when you've got the footage, and if you don't have it, that's okay. Like, they want brand new talent, but just show us that you can act, and tell your representation that you want to work in video games, and have a conversation with them, because if that's really your goal and they don't work in that industry, then maybe you need to shift reps, or you need to educate them, because the opportunities are definitely there, and just educate yourself on what it is that is, and kind of, what you need to have on your Actors Access for that. And you do need to have an Actors Access account for performance capture.
Absolutely. And Kimberly, what about you? And like, I was so blown away. I'm telling you, I was preparing for this and all that. I was like, because I don't want to say any certain characters, but I was like, damn, like the resume, like the IMDb page was just like, we're still scrolling. Like, I'm like, God dang. So like, you must have some advice on what people can do on their resume.
Well, I don't have that much great advice about that, because I haven't even updated my own reel. I really need to. My agent's over there is like, I'm just,
You don't at this point.
I mean, kind of like, I feel like what my advice would be, like, know what you do and what you can bring, and own your thing, and just, and like focus on that. Instead of, I think that you should listen a lot to what other people are doing as far as like what the sound is. This may not really necessarily work for video games, but like for commercials, for other things, there's always like sort of like a tone and a sound of what's, what of the times, I guess. So I feel like if you're, before you put in, I don't know about mocap and picture capture. I just don't know about that. I feel like for just doing a reel, you have to listen to what's going on to like in animation or in commercials, like what the tone is. So, and yeah, if you have real credits, obviously those things would go in there. But I'm working on my reel right now. It's really, I'm finding it challenging.
Because you have a lot. There's a lot to work with. It's like, it's like it would be a 40-minute reel or something. Like, in a good way though. Like I'm telling you, she's absolutely
find your best
amazing.
stuff.
Someone has made one on YouTube. I watched it. It's very impressive.
For you.
Maybe just copy that. Yeah.
I should watch it.
Just strip the MP3 from that as your reel.
I did the same.
idea.
I watched it. I was like, wait, I remember watching. Anyway, yes.
Oh, but you did say something interesting. You need to get permission, do you think, to use some of the things that have like.
I want to be very clear that my advice was about motion capture and performance capture. For voiceover, you certainly need a reel, and you need a reel they can hear your voice. So I just want to be very clear on that what Kimberly's doing, we all have a voiceover reel. And I had acting scenes that they looked at before I got my performance capture audition. But what were you saying?
Just you said
She's
get
just so
permission
amazing. I'm
from
like,
the game, like the developers, if you want to use.
Yeah, because they don't normally give away like the performance capture footage. So it's a bit like TV unless it's aired and you're allowed to use it, then you can use it. But we don't usually see the kind of behind the scenes with us with the helmets on or the suits on, because it's overlaid with the animation. So the game, you will see the animation. So you won't really see what we're doing. So if you want that specific footage, then you have to befriend people whilst you're there and ask, for their email and bug them until they give it to you. I mean, I'm just annoying like that.
I'm sure you're not.
Elliot, what about you, man?
I mean, for me, I'm really learning about it in real time. I entered this huge franchise, and I was like, oh, great, can't wait for the next game. I'm like, oh, there's no other games. It's just the same. So fun. But I found, because my opportunity came through the more theatrical avenue that I was very used to, I was expecting more to come through that same theatrical avenue, the same as TV and film would. And what I have been learning recently, please tell me if you think that I'm wrong, is that the industries are quite separate and different, especially with there will be certain like AAA leads that will maybe go through a more typical theatrical route, TV and film, and they'll cast in the same way. But so many of these wonderful roles and opportunities to work aren't happening that way. There's just slightly different casting channels. That's what I'm learning in real time. So I don't really have that much advice to offer, but I'm absorbing everything everyone's saying.
Seriously though.
Selfishly.
No, it's not. We're all trying to eat, and at the end, like Alex, any advice or anything you say? Hey, have this on your real resume or anything.
I mean, some of the advice that I got early on was keep your reels shorter than you think, because the reality is somebody's going to listen and it'll either hit them and they'll continue or they won't. And you're just trying to get them to call you in. You know, you're not showing a whole performance. So we don't need a scene or a thing where it's partially on you. And I actually think that goes for voiceover and for TV and film. You know, highlights. What do you look like with different hair color? You know, notoriously, if we're doing not just, I mean, Mocap, obviously, they can make your hair any color. But I would just say that, you know, if you're doing voiceover, I had an animation reel and then I had a commercial reel. And I tried to keep it short and interchange different sounds, essentially. So maybe I was playing a little kid here and then I was the queen of something there. And then I was, you know, a funny little bee and then I was something else, you know, and have fun when you're doing it. As far as Mocap, PCAP video games go, I had no idea what I was auditioning for. And it truly could have been anything. And so far I haven't really, you know, sometimes there'll be a voiceover audition, but that comes through the voiceover channel. I think as this medium is getting legitimized for many reasons, even though everyone who's ever gamed knows how legitimate it really is. But I think in the industry, because it is such an interesting business model, that'll come to be as things develop and as new media becomes more specific. So yeah, I mean, TBD on that.
Absolutely. And last but not least, Maggie, anything else you want to throw in before we wrap up?
No. I don't know. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong now. I had a mentor once tell me, specifically around voiceover, but it could also parallel into these other side things. When creating your voiceover reel, essentially dress for the job you want. Don't base it off of the material you've already done, but write new stuff based on where you want to go next. So planning for your future, or same with on camera, I've been thinking about recording some scenes, but I want it to be the stuff that I want to book tomorrow, not the stuff that I've already done.
It's an absolute honor to be up here with these incredible voice actors in general. So thank you, SAG-AFTRA. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dorian.
You did an amazing job.